and go. All right. Hey guys, welcome back to Chuckload of Comics, broadcasting right here from the Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo. We're going to talk about web comics with two guys that know a thing or two about web comics. We're with Trevor Mueller and Mike Norton, authors of Albert the Alien and Battlepug, tons of other stuff, guys. I mean, we know you guys work on just about every book out there, but just kind of focusing for a little bit on the web comics. Mm-hmm. Trevor, Albert the Alien. Mm-hmm. Let's dive deep. Sure. Tell us a little bit about Albert.
Yeah, so Albert the Alien is a young reader's adventure story about the first foreign exchange student from outer space.
Love it!
Yeah, it's kind of me taking my love of Saturday morning cartoons from the 80s and 90s and just trying to throw that onto a comic book page, right? Can I recreate that sense of running downstairs in your pajamas and binge watching hours and hours of animated shows on multiple channels while just eating a whole bunch of sugary cereal?
They don't do that anymore. Why did they stop doing
it? It really made me real nostalgic just then.
Man, right?
I can taste the marshmallows in my mouth right now.
The Lucky Charms. So we tried to recreate that feeling in an adventure story for young kids, especially since that type of experience doesn't exist anymore for kids. Now they can watch Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network or all these other channels that are dedicated, or YouTube, dedicated to whatever the heck they're watching. They can watch it any day of the week. So we were trying to kind of do that with that, and so we got nominated for 2 Harvey Awards. We were the first Young Readers syndicated series on Mark Waid's Thrillbent website, and we had just launched it as a thing that Gabe and I were just doing on our own.
Yeah, I saw at the beginning of the book, Mark Waid gave you a rather wonderful little review right there at the beginning.
Yeah, he wrote the foreword for us. He was very kind.
That is so cool. So where'd the concept come from? I mean, besides just your love of marshmallows and running downstairs.
So we were invited to pitch to an anthology called Reading with Pictures, which is an educational nonprofit based here in Chicago.
We were just talking with Josh from Reading with Pictures.
Yep. So that organization started in my kitchen. And I was the original marketing director for the group, and I helped them out at conventions such as this one that we're here at right now. And so Josh invited me to pitch and said, we needed some kind of story that either took place in a school or had some kind of educational concept behind it. And I started asking myself, what was my experience like K through 12? And I liked all the nerdy things, right? I liked cartoons before cartoons were popular. I liked X-Men before they had a movie. There
was a time before cartoons were popular.
I know, right? But all my friends and stuff or not my friends, all my peers and stuff were into sports, and it's you had this hierarchy of if you were good looking and good at sports, then you were popular. If you were good looking, then you were okay at popular. If you were weird and awkward, that you were at
Trevor
the opposite
Mueller.
end. And if you were Trevor Mueller, you were at the bottom of the social ladder. And so I was I felt very ostracized by my peers, and I felt like an alien walking among people. And I
sounded like you didn't have any peers.
To a degree. But the idea being that what would it be like if a kid really were an alien on our planet and looked different and didn't understand our cultural norms, and what kind of fun and wacky adventures could they get into? And that was the gestation of Albert.
That's awesome. Albert the Alien. Definitely check him out. Mike, sitting over there, I haven't asked you a single question.
No, that's fine.
Battlepug is a book that is near and dear to our hearts. We've been picking up the hardcover and, of course, the webcomic for a few years now. Let's talk about Battlepug.
Okay.
I was just... Explain it to us.
Battlepug is...
Here it goes.
It was just an excuse for me to... we're mentioning Saturday morning cartoons and stuff like that. It's an excuse for me to draw and write stories about all the stuff that I liked when I was a kid. Not necessarily the experience of being a kid, but all the stuff that I was watching. So all the movies that my parents shouldn't have let me watch. And Battlepug is essentially Conan and Star Wars run through a blender.
It is.
With dogs, because I like dogs. Actually, all kinds of weird animals, just because I like drawing animals. And so the idea came about because I did a t-shirt for somebody, and somebody said, hey, we want to do these t-shirts by cartoonists. And I said, well, I have no creations of my own. I've only worked for Marvel and DC. And they said, well, just make something up. And it's literally the only thing that came into my head was the idea of a barbarian
riding a dog.
So when you see the original t-shirt that I sell on my store, is you see at the bottom of the pug, there's comic books all over the place. So it was much more of an idea at the time. And so over the years, people would come up to my table and say, "So when's this comic coming out?" And I was like, "Oh, I never thought about that." So I had to put it all together, and it over time became sort of like this epic kind of story.
Yeah.
I thought it was just going to be a goofy thing, and then I was like, "Oh, this is going to be my bone," you know. So yeah, that's how it happened. And I'd never done a web comic before, and I wanted to experiment, and so I put it online, and it was an amazing experience. Putting your stuff online is just this immediate satisfaction of seeing what people like and don't like. And
So how long before did it make the leap from online sensation to hardcover book?
Well, I had a couple of people a couple of months after asking about printing it, but I didn't start doing that until like a year or two into it. And I had to think about it because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, I came from print, making comic books. We both have. So I felt among the web comics community that I was kind of like a poser. You know, I was like, here's this guy who comes in from drawing comic books, and now he's trying to poured in on our stuff. So, so it was a little while into it, and then after that, I realized I found the groove, and you know, so we went with Dark Horse and became sort of what it is today. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we love it. Chelsea, you were looking at the awesome art because you write and illustrate the whole thing.
Yeah.
Just the concept of a woman stuck in a tower telling a fantasy story about a barbarian who rides a dog to her dogs. She's like telling the story to these two dogs who are looking up at her, enjoying every word.
Well, it's an interesting idea in that like I said before, it's just an excuse for me to draw the stuff I wanted to draw. And I was like, I want to draw a naked tattooed lady, and I want to draw little dogs. Let's make that the whole point of the story. And then you can see over the course of 5 years at the end, I've actually given a reason why she's naked now. It's like it comes like
I was waiting for that twist, and it never came.
Everything like
why is she naked? It
does
for 4 whole volumes.
I explain everything, and it's
You
like
worked it in.
well, yeah, I like there's a difference in having an idea for something, and then I mean Trevor will tell you, and then having to write it. So you have to come up with a story for it, and I didn't want to be the guy that's like, well, that guy's just an artist.
The guy that writes the naked ladies.
So by the end of the story, there's like, oh, I've created a mythology here. So, people got on my case about just being a naked woman lying around all the time and not really having a purpose. And I was like, wait
See,
a couple of
reason.
years.
You give me a couple weeks, I'll come up with a reason for you. You talked really briefly about the instant gratification you get through webcomics. Trevor, do you similar situation? I mean, you kind of get that vibe when you put something online and just instantly you start getting feedback.
Yeah, I mean, we intentionally started Albert as a webcomic first so that we could start to build up kind of that core audience because it's, you know, my name's not nearly as big as Mike, so like putting something out there, I need a little bit of time to snowball that idea and that concept, and something as weird and out there as Albert, especially since it's supposed to appeal to young readers, and most of the people that are going online are adults, like... You know, we needed to get something to kind of hook them and to build up that momentum. So, like, before we even launched the webcomic, we started a Facebook page where Albert has his own Facebook page.
Sweet.
And he'd post about, like, oh, I'm coming to Earth soon, and here's some previews of things that I'm doing, and that's how we did
Facebook page.
So it's
it's
like,
his Facebook
that's
page.
awesome.
And so that's how we started to promote it, and it's the way that he talks, which is kind of unique, and that's how we got like character designs and stuff out there just to get people excited about the property. And then we knew that single issues were very difficult for us to kind of produce ourselves. They're very not cost effective. So I wanted to produce the single issue chapters as like digital components, and then kickstart fund a graphic novel that we were going to self-publish until we could find a publisher to attach to it. And no publisher ended up coming on board, so we just kept kickstart funding these books over and over again. So the web audience kind of allowed us to get that instant feedback and that community that then would support us when it was time for us to jump into a physical medium.
Yeah, they actually wound up funding phase 2 of Albert the Alien.
Yeah.
So any other series on the web or otherwise you guys are working on, really excited about? Mike, I know you got tons of stuff going on over at Marvel.
Right now I've been focusing a lot on my own stuff, not necessarily all web. I do currently have a web political comic about our president on GoComics.com that I haven't really updated in like 3 months. Just
All right, what's the name of that one? I
It's
kind of
called
want to
Little
read it.
Donnie.
Oh God, yes.
It's called Little Donnie, and it's pretty brutal. I have a lot of fun at his expense, but I haven't been able to update it lately just because I found myself getting depressed by it as I was drawing it. So I've had more fun doing a lot of other stuff in my own books, like Grumble and stuff like that. So and I'm bringing Battlepug back to
Awesome.
print at some point. So, but yeah, I haven't done a whole lot of Marvel or DC or other companies lately. I'm working on a Hellboy thing right now, but
Yeah. About to have the last issue of the current run of Hellboy.
yeah, and they're releasing a Lobster Johnson Hellboy one shot when the movie comes out. So
Have you seen the movie yet?
I'm not privileged to any of that. Yeah,
Good enough to write it. But
I
not
don't
good
get
enough
to I don't get
or
to
good enough
see
to illustrate it.
sexy Hellboy before everybody else does.
They just don't need any naked ladies in Hellboy, in the Hellboy universe. Trevor, what are you working on, man?
So I mean, we just finished the 4th and final volume of Albert the Alien, so we did wrap up that series, and then I'm working on like maybe 6 graphic novels, I think, right now with different new artists. And part of the challenge that I'm doing is I'm trying to test some new artists that haven't had like a body of work behind them. I'm trying to be that springboard to allow them an opportunity to start their career in comics. And the challenge with that is that there's a reliability factor that sometimes comes with those people that don't have the discipline and the regimen to do commercial art consistently.
Never worked on a deadline.
Exactly. And so the challenge with that is actually getting them to finish a comic book.
I
Right
hope
now,
they're not watching this because
no. And the ones that I'm working with right now are fantastic. But a couple of them have had to restart a few times with new artists. A couple of them, just got scrapped entirely so that I could focus on something that an artist wanted to do. Because I usually prioritize based on what the artist wants to draw. So, like, if the artist wants to draw a science fiction story that takes place in space, I'm going to write a science fiction story that takes place in space. If the artist wants to draw magical girls in high school, I'm going to write about magical girls in high school. But my priorities in my projects right now, I have 2 young daughters at home. And I want to write stories that they will be able to read with characters that they can look up to as they get older. And so a lot of the stuff that I'm doing right now is very female protagonist-led, very strong role model kind of characters for them. And I'm working with a lot of female artists because I love following the Twitter hashtag Visible Women. And just some of the artwork that these women are putting out is incredible, and they're from all around the world. I'm working with an artist from Japan. I'm working with an artist from Canada. I'm working with an artist from Argentina right now. And the diversity in their styles and the types of stories that they want to tell are challenging to me as a writer and a creator, and just something that I think really resonates right now with a lot of the younger kind of YA and young reader audiences that I like to continue to write for.
Sweet.
So that's kind of what I'm working on at the
Is
moment.
language a barrier when you're writing for those?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah. I had a hilarious incident where I wrote that it was an investigative scene, and I wrote the character is going through stacks of papers, and the artist drew stacks of paper like the books in Ghostbusters, and the character is walking through stacks of papers. And I was like, okay,
close.
My bad. Translation issue. Let me walk that back. So a couple of times you'll run into some transition issues that are funny. But I just tell them, like, look, if something doesn't seem right to you, like, just shoot me an email or we'll Skype or
just
something.
ask before you do the whole book wrong.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I know you got to get back to your tables over at Artist Alley. We really appreciate you coming by. Where can everybody find you here at C2E2? What are our table numbers?
What is my...
Just look for the big pug dog, and you'll find Mike.
G8.
G8?
I am at G8 with a bunch of other Chicago people.
And I'm actually like right behind you guys. I'm at table 1773
awesome.
For Reading with Pictures. And then online you can find me at Trevor A. Mueller. That's my Twitter, my Facebook, my Instagram. Find me, follow me, friend me.
And also follow Albert the Alien's Facebook page.
Yeah.
Yes.
Find out what Albert's doing. So, guys, Albert the Alien, Battlepug, check them out if you haven't been reading them. You will not be disappointed. And find us, Chuckload of Comics, all weekend long at booth 1876 at chuckloadofcomics.com and, of course, youtube.com/chuckloadofcomics. Come by the booth. Say hi. Thanks a lot for coming, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.